Okay, I just need everyone to know that getting through researching for this video was absolutely impossible because I kept stopping researching to just jam out to Little Mix. Because obviously if you're going to make a video about their albums, you have to re-listen to their albums no matter how many times you've already heard them. So I was listening to their albums, but getting work done was just impossible. And that's exactly what happens when you just can't stop slaying. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new, then hi, welcome. So glad to have you here. Thank you for clicking. If you are new, welcome to my series where I analyze albums in order to rank them. This is the third installment. It all started when I made a video ranking Taylor albums, and then I did One Direction. And a lot of people were commenting on both of those videos, asking me to do Little Mix because you guys know I'm a big Little Mix girl. So I had to do it. So in this video, we're going to be looking at all of Little Mix's albums and analyzing them in order to put them in order from best to worst at the end. Basically, it's done in a point system. There's up to 5 points in each category. The categories are overall look, lyricism, production, critic reviews, chart success, and then the album will receive bonus points based on mainstream awards it won. And of course, my usual little disclaimer still stands here that this is nothing super scientific and real. It's literally so biased. If you're sitting here watching this thinking like, that's just her opinion, this is so biased, like it is, yeah. But yeah, that's a little bit about the video. Let's just get right into it and see how these Little Mix albums rank. I'm shaking in my boots. DNA was released on November 19th in 2012. Its genre is pop and R&B, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of people like first in their minds would associate Little Mix with like dance pop, but they did have like influences and sprinkles of R&Bs right from the very first era, don't forget. This album features themes of heartbreak, empowerment, relationships, friendship, and mental health, which all make a lot of sense for Little Mix. For the overall look, so unfortunately this is the first era of a pop girl group, so I feel like their concept is just bound to be all over the place, especially given like this time period when this was released. Just like I said with One Direction's Up All Night, it's just such a matter of I don't know what I want to be yet. A lot of the DNA album shoot is very lacking in concept and it's just giving group of girls, which again makes so much sense for a girl group's first album in this time period. They're also not styled very cohesively in any of these shoots. Like I'm not sure what the goal was. The colors of this album are also all over the place. You got the pink and the blue alternating, which isn't bad, right? But then they added like the purple title with yellow accents underneath and then writing in a completely different shade of pink. And then you open it and the CD is blue and yellow. What? They had an idea going with the 4 like different little sections featuring each member. And maybe the colors going diagonally like that is cool too. But the color palette is just ugly, okay? And I don't think the color scheming like really captures what Little Mix and DNA was all about in the beginning. Maybe a little bit, like the pink and blue is cute. Then they throw in this like yellow and purple and I don't know. It just could have been better. I'll give it a 2. Lyricism. So Little Mix actually do have writing credits on DNA, which is amazing for a first album, especially in this time. And for a first album by a pop group, they have some pretty decent lyrics on DNA too. You would expect it to be like shallow and cheesy and very bubblegum, but they kind of went off. DNA itself is lyrically strong. Pretend It's Okay. Like, okay. Turn Your Face, Madhouse, motherfucking Case Closed. That will always be my girl. I will always love you, girl. I'm shaking. I love this album. And it does have its fair share of like the cheesy bubblegum girl groupie lyrics. I'm not saying it doesn't. We heard We Are Who We Are, okay? No, stop, because I can't even make fun of this album. DNA is so tied to my preteen years. Like she is so special to me. That was when I had like the soulmate of a best friend and we were both mixers together and we went and saw them and met them and got our little DNA CDs signed by them and then went to Taco Bell sobbing our eyes out afterwards. So tied to the 6th grade for me. I love We Are Who We Are, okay? DC. I don't care. I'm gonna shine like a star because I'm the only me in this world. Literally. It's just so reminiscent of this time period and this style that's just never going to happen again. So I just want everyone to let me have my fun. Anyways, even though the lyrics are super fun and reminiscent of the time period, I can't give it more than a 2.5. I feel like that would be a little bit criminal. So I'm gonna put it somewhere in the middle. Like not quite a 3, but she's not a 2 either. Production. I feel like DNA is one of, if not my favorite album of theirs sonically, like just the way it sounds, putting lyrics aside a little bit. Like say what you want, but DNA is gonna eat every time. I don't know what to tell you. DNA defender until I die. I don't know what the girls say about DNA, but I love. DNA is just like this perfect combination of dance pop and R&B as a girl group should. Like, that is a girl group when you can do the R&B, you can do the little ballads, but you can also have a pop moment. Ugh, so good. DNA is all about that. This album did a really good job at showing off their individual talents and how beautiful their harmonies are and how well they work as a group. Made me want to dance, made me want to cry. And it's so ridiculously catchy too. Like, it just knows exactly what it is and what it wants to be. Like, it's not pretentious. It doesn't try hard to be anything other than a pop record by a girl group. Stereo Soldier, Pretend It's Okay, Going Nowhere, Case Closed. Those are God tier songs to me. I'm giving it a 5. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Crowd, go on somewhere else. DNA is a 5 sonically. On to critical reception. So previously in the Jasmine Zade ranking albums lore, there exists a Metacritic. We've talked about many times if you've seen these videos. Metacritic is a music platform that assigns an album a score out of 100 based on critic reviews. So the closer you are to 100, the better your reviews are. Usually really good albums are up in the 70s. Good albums are like 60 and above. And then anything under 60 is like, don't quit your day job. So DNA was at 61 on Metacritic, which is pretty average mix. One critic from AllMusic said, the 2011 winners of Britain's The X Factor TV show, four-piece girl group Little Mix deliver a slick, high-energy mix of dance-oriented pop with their debut full-length album, 2012's DNA. Little Mix make good on their promise of updating the 90s girl group sound of En Vogue and TLC. Literally love. That is such a good little paragraph to describe DNA. A lot of critics were saying the album establishes their identity really well, which I agree with a lot, especially as someone who's looking back at DNA after I've heard like all of their projects as a group so far. Like, looking back on when they were younger, it's like, oh, that was a really good way to establish your musical identity. A lot of critics were commenting on their inclusion of hip-hop and R&B sounds and that lean into like the 90s music, kind of like AllMusic said about them embracing En Vogue and Destiny's Child. The negative reviews I read were mostly about Little Mix sounding the same as other girl groups and not reinventing the girl group sound. People always complain about that, and by people I mean men. Some people consider DNA to be too cheesy. I can't agree, just say you hate pop, but whatever. I'll give it a 3. For chart success, DNA peaked at number 3 in the UK and spent 36 weeks on the charts, just behind Rihanna's new album and One Direction's Take Me Home. Of course, Take Me Home, girl. It peaked in a top 10 spot in 8 different countries, including the US 200, where it charted at number 4. And I'm pretty sure, like, if I think back to my research, that's the highest that they'd ever chart in the US. DNA was the highest charting debut week entry album by a British girl group in the US, which was a record previously held by the Spice Girls' debut album. Pretty solid debut stats, nothing off the walls and crazy, but it is pretty decent. I'll give it like a 3.5. And then albums would usually get bonus points for awards won, but I couldn't find any major awards won for DNA. So she has 16 points total. We're starting off strong. Salute was released on November 8th in 2013, and its genre is, again, pop and R&B, said to be about girl power, mental health, self-love, breakups, and insecurity. I love the Salute album cover. It might be one of my faves of theirs. I love a group on the couch concept. I said I loved the Made in the AM album cover in the Made in the AM video because the group on the couch concept, it just works. Something about a boy band or a girl group just piled on the couch is just so safe. It's easy. As long as the background is cute and the title is matching in some way. The Salute cover is cute because the title matches the couch color, and the little heart in the corner also accents the couch, so it looks good. You can't exactly see what they're wearing, but for the most part, the styling seems cohesive. And I like that the back is simply a continuation of the sky behind them. Always looks good when an album can pull off like a simple element on the back. While I do think it's cohesive, I would have liked to see them play on making the cover match the title. Y'all knew I was gonna say this, okay? Concept girly until I die. I love a matching concept. So it would have been cool to see something Salute looking, not necessarily military or camo, or them like actually making a salute pose. Like, it doesn't have to be that literal. But I found this Salute fan mock up and I was like, something like this would be cute. I don't like the arm up poses. I don't know, that feels a little dramatic for me for this pop album. But the flag is what's getting me, and the crowd behind them too. Like they're leading an army. That is super fucking cute and cool, and it matches the title. The outfits are like, but But something like these outfits that coordinate with each other like that is a huge yes. Like I don't know, just this concept is cool. So I'll give Salute a 3 for overall look. It could have been one step up. It could have matched a little bit better, but what they do have is cute for what it is. Lyricism. Once again, of course, we have Little Mix writing credits on Salute. It would be kind of weird if they wrote on their first album and then just didn't again. I think lyrically they're still pretty close to the subject of DNA, but they're just like touching on these themes in a little bit of a different way. It hasn't been that long between the two albums, of course, but even in that small period of time, you can see some growth. Strongest lyrically here, we got Little Me, Taurus, my girl. These Four Walls, Good Enough. I have found that listening to Little Mix albums, they seem to do sad very well. Like the more mellowed out, slow, ballady type of songs, their lyricism is a lot stronger. And then they let the more upbeat pop ones be a little bit more cheesy, but like in a good way, like in a good pop catchy kind of way. You know what I mean? I'll give them a 3 for the lyricism on Salute. For the production, I think the production of Salute is ridiculously solid. I feel like DNA felt like a really good mix of like R&B pop and a little bit of rock influences, but Salute is just so hip hop to me. Move, Salute, Nothing Feels Like You, Competition, Something About the Boy, Boy Itself. They all sound so fitting for each other, not like one song being repeated over and over again and not like the same thing, but they fit in a body of work together so well because they have similar vibe. And that vibe is so like dancey and hip hoppy to me. They all kind of share that. And this album just has so much more of a voice sonically than DNA did. Like, I don't know, they just picked good songs that complement each other and just create a really solid body of work. And something that I love for a girl group is being able to combine those like upbeat pop songs with slow ballads too. And just like dump a mix of those on their album to create the album. And Little Mix did that really well on Salute. I'm actually gonna give Little Mix a 5 for the production of Salute. Because it's like, I know I just did that for DNA, but I can't help it. It's like the sound part is what they're best at. The critical reception. Salute got a 66 on Metacritic, which is higher than DNA. Critics agree that Salute was a step up from DNA and showed a lot of musical growth, more confidence. Critics love Little Mix's like super clean, beautiful harmonies. There was even a critic who put Salute in the top 20 best pop albums of the year. The only negative thing I could find was some critics saying that it was like too boomy and in your face, but I think that anthemy upbeat-esque type of thing works really well for an album called Salute. I'll give them a 4. For chart success, Salute charted at number 4 in the UK, making this their second top 5. It debuted at 6 on the US 200, and it was one of the biggest selling girl group albums since 1994, but it just didn't chart like DNA for some reason, so it gets a 2.5, which puts Salute at 17.5 total. Get Weird was released on November 6th in 2015. Genre is pop and R&B once again. For the overall look, now I just said in the last album that I love a group on the couch concept, and I do, just not twice in a row. On this cover, I do love the background. It goes well with like the yellow wording and even the title Get Weird, like it's called Get Weird. So I like that it's patterned and busy. I can see a theme trying to break through. I kind of like the deluxe version of the album cover better. The staticky TVs is really cute. And I love the green shade. I mean, yellow works too because, like I said, it's called Get Weird. It's very in your face, so yellow is cool. But the green is just pretty. But I do wish they would have had a different setup with the girls instead of putting them on the couch again. There's a lot of really cool poses and shots they could have done with the TVs in the background on the deluxe version. I just love the staticky TVs. So many cool poses they could have done. They could have done on the floor in front of the TVs or like standing up in a row. There was just other things they could do besides the couch again. I love the back of the album though. Making it colorful and keeping the font consistent is super cool. In summary, this one is pretty cohesive, but one of my least faves, so I'll give it a 2.5. I'm just going crazy with the 0.5s today. I don't know what's up with that. Lyricism. Okay, I have something to say about Get Weird's lyricism. Get Weird just does pop so well. So good. It's just lyrically strong for pop. Like you think straight up pure dance pop and you think catchy, right? Like not super poetic and whimsical lyrically. Catchy. and Get Weird brings catchy. I also like that Get Weird seems to be full of concepts. Like each song is called something that's themed, and then the lyrics of the song follow suit with that entire thing. Like Secret Love Song is a great example. Secret Love Song has the concept and the lyrics match up to that so well. Hair is another one that does that. Even Black Magic, Weird People, like it's just full of songs that really conceptualize one idea. I'm gonna give Get Weird a fat 4 for lyrics, and I don't want to hear anything else. Production. Get Weird, like all of their albums that we've talked about so far, obviously draws on like multiple influences, but I see her as one of their most pop albums. Like I said, DNA was like R&B with a bunch of other influences, and then Salute was like hip-hoppy with a bunch of other influences, and now I see Get Weird as like pop with a bunch of other influences, if that makes sense. Even like the ballad songs that are a lot more slow and mellow have very poppy undertones on Get Weird. I do think Get Weird is really good sonically and pretty cohesive, but it doesn't have a lot of my favorite tracks sonically. I'll give it a 3. For critical reception, Get Weird got a 66 on Metacritic, and it said that the reviews are generally positive. AllMusic described the album as ear-poppingly catchy and said there's a kinetic energy to many of the tracks on Get Weird that bring to mind the arty 80s dance pop of bands like Yellow, crossed with the crisp bluesy soulfulness of Robert Palmer. Big yes to the 80s dance pop thing. That's exactly what I thought the tracks on this album sounded like. A lot of critics actually called Get Weird decade blending, and I liked that. Some critics called the album their most consistent yet, which is nice. I think people struggle to come up with super negative things to say about Get Weird, besides the usual digs about girl group music. But again, it takes a special understanding of pop and the market to get it. So I'll give critic reviews a 5. For chart success, little spoiler for you, Get Weird is easily Little Mix's most successful of the 3 that we've talked about so far. The jumps it did on the chart in comparison to Salute is insane. It peaked at number 2 in the UK and was close to taking the number 1. It became the longest charting album by a girl group, beating a previous record jointly held by Destiny's Child and the Spice Girls. It reached number 1 in Ireland, number 2 in Australia, and a top 10 spot in several other countries. It didn't perform as well as Salute in the US though. It charted at 13 on the Hot 200, so it went down a little bit here, but it still has really solid stats. I'll give it a 4.5. Which brings us to 19 points total. Very, very strong and deserved, as it should be. Glory Days was released on November 18th in 2016, and its genre is dance pop and R&B, of course. For the overall look, I absolutely hate to report this, but I think Glory Days has my least favorite look of them all. Jade looks so awkward in this picture, like the arms up looks really unnatural and posed when the whole concept of this is to be candid. I also don't like the pink border around it because it doesn't match the sky or like the sunset. They look good. I like the coordinating outfits, and the pink title in that signature like Little Mix spray paint is good. And I also love the back. It screams Glory Days, this like picture. I like that. But the rest of the album shoot doesn't make sense. I don't know what their stylist was doing here. They were in a bunch of vacation looking locations, but then it was a desert on the cover. It's just not themed well. Like, I get what you were going for. The album was called Glory Days. You know what I mean? Like the throwing the arms up. Like, I get it. But it just was not executed well. So Glory Days, look, I'm sorry, but you're getting a 1. I don't think I've ever given out a 1 in these videos before. I can't remember, but I don't think I have. For the lyricism, no, this video is just going to be me being a Glory Days hater and a DNA protector. Why lie? Glory Days is one of their weakest lyrically so far. That's my opinion! Not a lot of that story-like theming anymore. Nothing extraordinarily catchy, except for Shout Out to My Ex. Shout out to my ex, who will always be so famous. And there's a few other, I mean, there is like lyrically strong songs on Glory Days. No More Sad Songs. Hello girl, we hear you, we see you, we respect you. But for the most part, it just doesn't hit lyrically like their previous and future projects. I'll give it a 2. For the production, usually when an album isn't the strongest lyrically, the production can really save it. Kind of like some tracks on DNA. But Glory Days is just a mess. It's like if they put a bunch of random sounds and genres in a baseball cap and then blindfolded themselves and drew them out. one by one. And that's how they made this album. Like, I just have no idea what the goal sound of Glory Days was supposed to be. And Glory Days is super production heavy too. Like, it has a lot of that very anthem-y, clubby, electronic sounding stuff instead of that really nice, smooth pop R&B thing that they were giving before. I have to give it a 1.5. I'm sorry. If you're a Glory Days lover, I'm so sorry. We can still be friends. Though I must be the only Glory Days hater because it actually does have really good critic reviews. The Guardian called Glory Days chart pop perfection. A lot of critics liked the strong girl power messaging across this album. Critics said it's nice to see women come together and share a bond like this album does. Whatever, 5 points it is. Let me get a little coffee break. I've been drinking strawberry flavored coffee. Literally so good. So good. For chart success, Glory Days was Little Mix's first UK #1, and it stayed there for 5 weeks. It was the longest charting #1 for a girl group since the Spice Girls in the 90s. It was #1 in Ireland and charted in a top 10 spot in several other countries. But it did go down even further in the US than Get Weird. It was at number 25, which, isn't their fault. It's their team being shitty. They had very terrible American promo. We've talked about that on this channel before if you want to check out some of my other Little Mix videos. But I'll give them a 4 for chart success. And we finally have a bonus point to give out for an award because this album, they won a Brit for Shout Out to My Ex, and it was their first Brit. Brings Glory Days to 14.5 points total. LM5 was released on November 16th in 2018. The genre is pop and R&B. Can't say they work consistent, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay? For the overall look, I love how Little Mix is styled on this album cover. So cute and cohesive. However, not for an album cover. They look like they're in a magazine spread or like an ad, not on the cover of a pop album. Like, the picture is super cute and they look great, but it doesn't look like a Little Mix album. I don't like the plain white either or the new font. Oh God, I'm a hater to my core. I do love this album so much. I'm a big LM5 girl, don't get me wrong. You'll see when we get into this. But the cover and the album shoot, it just doesn't give me iconic Little Mix. It gives me Kohl's. It gives me JCPenney. I'll give it a 2. For lyricism, okay, thank God Little Mix redeemed themselves lyrically on LM5 from Glory Days. This album is their most mature yet. It was the first time they had that little explicit E by the tracks, I See You. The way they speak about femininity and female empowerment on this album is so good. It's not like over-the-top cheesy girl power pandering. It feels like real empowerment from adult women. Strip, Monster and Me, Told You So makes me want to puke, but in the best way possible. Like, girl, just come around mine tonight. I got wine and makeup wipes. I'll literally hold you. Makes me sick. It's just so good. It's so cute. Makes me love being a little girly in my 20s with my other girlies that are my besties. Like, that's just... Oh, there's just nothing like it. Not just the female empowerment, but the confidence and everything that they stand for. It just goes crazy on this album. I love her. It's a 5, I'm afraid. For the production, LM5, like DNA and Get Weird, is one of my favorites sonically out of their whole discography. I find her to be very cohesive. Please feel free to take a shot every time I say that word. Much better production. Very stable, digestible, very fun, but not too much. They return to that very like pop R&B like classic mix that we were kind of missing for a little bit. I definitely think that poppy R&B sound that they have going on LM5 is like the Little Mix sound. Like, it's what they're best at. Not that electro clubby anthem-esque kind of stuff they were doing on Glory Days. LM5 to me is just like, this is what a Little Mix album sounds like. And I feel that way about Confetti too, kind of. I'm a Joan of Arc protector forever. IDC. It's a 10 every time. Love a Girl Right, another fave, you're kidding. Wasabi is my famous girl. Production's a 5. How could I give her anything less? Critical reception. This album has scored the highest out of all of them so far with a 69 on Metacritic, which is really good, easing into that 70s territory. Critics called this album more cohesive, polished, and confident than their past 2 records in particular. Others agreed it was their best release to date. A lot of critics called it a feminist album and loved the delivery of that theme. Critics loved the stripped back sound and the showcasing of their beautiful harmonies. The girlies love her, as they should. It's a 5. For chart success, success. LM5 charted at number 3 in the UK. It got number 2 in Ireland, but it only missed number 1 by 6 sales. It was a top 10er in several other countries, of course. And I should just stop mentioning the US at this point because their lack of promo there is incredibly unfair. But they charted at 40. At least they were top 40. Nothing crazy impressive overall though, which is very surprising for LM5, but we'll give it a 2. And they get an extra point for winning a Brit for Women Like Me Deserve, bringing LM5 to 20 points total. From the sky drop like confetti. Confetti was released on November 6th in 2020. The genre, you guessed it, pop and R&B. For the overall look, okay, hear me out. Just kidding, I hate this album cover. I think a lot of people hate the Confetti album cover, so I'm safe. I live to see another day. The girlies won't get me this time. The album is called Confetti. You literally had one job, one thing, and you didn't do it. So many cute confetti concepts. Infinity amount of things you could have done with confetti, and you did this. Is the album called Glitter? No. Weird background designs, what is that supposed to be? The Little Mix and neon sign lighting, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Let me offer you some alternate covers. So this is the first one that somebody mocked up that they could have went with. So cute. I love this. It looks like it candid in an album cover kind of way. Like it doesn't look superposed. They look like they're just literally having fun posing for pictures at a party. I love that there's actually confetti dropping in it. Like, that's cute. Silver confetti, which matches the mirror ball under Lee's feet. The mirror ball is super cute. It adds so much. They're styled cohesively, like all wearing black. There's lots of leather in there. The title going across the bottom like that. It's just so cute, so cool. This could have been great. And yes, there's a couch again, which I said they shouldn't repeat, but at least they're all not just like piled on the couch. There's some standing going on. Perry's really the only one sitting on the couch. And then we also have this one, which, hear me out, if the background was confetti instead of the spots, like it just looks like star-dusted spots, it would have been better if it was confetti falling, like silver confetti, but with these outfits and the title going across the bottom like that. Super cute. It looks like a Little Mix album. It's giving iconic. It's giving iconic pop album. They're styled so cute. Like what? Love the jumpsuits, the heels, the poses. If only this had confetti in it, it would literally be the perfect album cover. One of those. That could have been so cool and fun and cute, but they gave us mess. She gets a 1, and I'm not sorry. For the lyricism, so this album leans heavily on more like independence and self-worth rather than the super female empowerment kind of stuff. Makes sense. This is their first album, not under Psycho, and there's a lot of change going on. So it just makes sense that they would kind of lean into that independence, self-worth kind of theming. I don't see Confetti as a lyrical standout though. That's theming. Lyrically, I don't see it as a standout among their albums. It just doesn't do like lyrical pop like the rest of like some of their other projects. Yes, I'm talking about Get Weird. She does it the best. But Confetti is lyrically stronger than Glory Days and really returns to that catchy pop writing. Nothing unbearable, just catchy. So I'll give it a 3. For the production, Confetti gave me sweet melody. I don't get to complain about the production. Confetti is pretty pop and again returns to that really classic Little Mix pop with R&B influences thing. But it's such clean and mature pop. It's nothing like the chaos of Glory Days. I think Confetti is nice and cohesive without sounding like a repetitive mix. Confetti just feels so Little Mix to me. It's kind of like I was saying when I was talking about LM5, like both of these albums just feel so Little Mix to me. And it's crazy too because this is, like I said, their first album away from Psycho, so kind of sounding so them and in their element is really cool. It was like one big celebration. I'll give it a 4. On to critic reviews. Confetti is the highest rated album out of all of them with a big fat 74 on Metacritic. That is pretty favorable. Critics loved them touching on the music industry in this album. They loved the harmonies and the touches of R&B. The Guardian called it a solid mainstream pop album. I did read a critic complain that it's too hard to distinguish Confetti from LM5. And another said something similar and said they found their voice, but it's nothing new for them. I don't agree, but I'll give it a 4. And for chart success, debuted at number 2 in the UK and number 1 in Ireland. It charted in a top 10 spot in many other countries, like more than the other albums. But it went even lower on the US charts at number 85, which is unbelievable to me. This is when Respect Little Mix was trending because so many people were calling out their team for the shitty US promo. So I'll give it a 3, which brings Confetti to 15 points total. I really thought that would be higher. What? But that brings us to the final ranking of these albums, and we're gonna find out what's the best and the worst and everything in between. We have DNA with 16 points, Salute with 17.5, Get Weird with 19, Glory Days with 14.5, LM5 at 20, and Confetti at 15. Which means the final ranking is LM5, Get Weird, Salute, DNA, Confetti, and Glory Days. Okay, before I started filming this, I could have told you that LM5 would be first and Glory Days would be last, but I didn't expect Salute to beat Confetti. How did that happen? Because if I was going to rank them, I would say LM5, Get Weird, Confetti, Salute, DNA, Glory Days. Or I might switch Salute and DNA. I don't know. But Confetti being that low is kind of criminal. I'm sorry, girls. The girls are going to come for me. This is how the dominoes fall. This is what it is. This is the final ranking. LM5 will always be that bitch. I love her. I wish the title was different, but I'm glad she's in first place because that is a good tier Little Mix album. My big 3 is LM5, Get Weird, and DNA. And I will never settle for anything less. Let me know in the comments how you guys would rank these Little Mix albums just based on your personal opinions. Let me know all your favorite songs and least favorite songs. Just dish it out about Little Mix in the comments. While you're down there, you can check out a form I have for a video request. Let me know what other videos you want to see from me. Also follow me on my social medias. Come chat with me over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok if you want. I'm active on all those other platforms. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing, drinking all the water, thriving, and I'll see you in my next video.